So I promise we're going to be fast, furious, 45 minutes, and we're going to look at a playbook for how we can thrive in a changing world. And that playbook has been used in lots of lovely organizations around the world. But more importantly, between us at the end of a long day, talking about something very intimate like our emotions, the question is, who's he and what's he done? So I'll tell you a little to expand on Sharon's kind introduction about the jockey bet. I was challenged by a client who said, I bet you £1 that you can't use your amazing rules for taming tigers, which is the name of the playbook I'll bring here tonight, to become a jockey riding in your first race live on the television under United Kingdom Jockey Club, as it was, rules of horse racing. £1 says you can't do that in 1 year. I took the bet. I was pretty excited. I thought I could have taken a hard bet, a challenging bet. I could have taken a bet, I don't know, return a tennis ball to Rafa Nadal. Can you imagine? Look, train for a marathon, a triathlon. No, I've got horse riding, which, as you all know, as well as I do, is a sitting down sport. How hard can it be, a sitting down sport? Which shows you exactly how much I knew about horses. I went to a big London comprehensive. There were lots of terrifying things at my school, to be honest. There were some good things, not very many. But the one thing I never found at my school was the riding stables. I knew nothing. I've been corporate hospitality horse racing once in my life. None of us in the group saw any horses that day. We were all in the hospitality tent. I knew nothing. I got on Google. I learned that a jockey will start riding a horse somewhere between the age of 6 months and 9 months. This is not good. I'm 36 years old at this stage. I Googled on. I thought, I'll check the weight. A jockey will start a race, think about this, at a weight of between 7.5 stone on the flat and 9 stone. I didn't know what I weighed. I was not interested at this phase in my life in what I weighed. So I found an old scales, I dusted them off, and I got on, and it was bad news. But I thought, it's all right, I've got this. I got off, I took off all my clothes, I got back on. This is good enough. Didn't change the needle. It doesn't. Those who are laughing, you've done this, right? It doesn't even change the needle. It was winter, I had a jumper and every jeans, nothing. I'm 12, I've got to be 9, which means that, as Sharon kindly mentioned, 25% of me has got to find a new place to live, and I've got no idea how I'm supposed to do that. I'm not bringing that into the room because I think I'm so very clever to have done that. There are many more important things in my life than riding in a few horse races, and there are many more exciting and important things in the room, family-based and work-based, than one of us becoming a jockey. I'm bringing it into the room because I genuinely believed I had no business showing up to do that. People like me couldn't do stuff like that. I couldn't create a change that would enable that to happen. And what I'm interested in is a little provocative question you probably weren't expecting before we tuck into dinner. What is it you think you've got no business doing? Within this community, within your businesses, in terms of the clients that you would want to bring on into your organization, in terms of the modernization that you might want to bring on, the digitization, technology, working practices, I've no idea. What is it you think you've got no business showing up to do? The innovations that people like you in an industry like this, in an organization like that, aren't able to bring about. Because that's exactly what someone's going to tackle, be it in the room or worse, an Uber coming in to disrupt. So what are the thriving, the changes that we can all begin to deliver? And that's what I'd like to have as the starting point. What is it you think you've got no business showing up to do? Let's look at the playbook then as to how we might tackle some of these things. Because this is not, you don't become a jockey in here by looking in the mirror and believing and it'll all fall into place. Neither are you going to take the British freediving record that way. And of course, there are many achievements in this room, so you know that you're not going to take the next mega step by believing. So it's not one of those presentations, I'm afraid. There's a playbook here. And it works, and it's delivered Olympic medals, and it's delivered major changes in organizations. So I want to bring it into the room. We'll have a look at it together. And change 101 for this playbook, I've leapt forward. Is that back? It's something that's going out of fashion, which is accountability and responsibility. We hold the pen. And we can't deliver change and deliver different results for us and do things we never thought we had any right to show up and do if we think someone else is holding the pen. Now, I know we had different starting places. And I know we've had good things happen and bad things happen. But when we're 110 years old, I hope, in some lovely nursing home, I hope, being looked after nicely, I hope, and we look back on the story of our lives, we will have held the pen. We will be the actors who created that story. How we loved, how we stuck at it when it was challenging and it was downright hard and it would have been easier to have slunk off. How we studied, how we made friends courageously and built our networks. We will have written the story of our lives. But that's not good enough because I promised you a playbook and I've given you a metaphor. That won't work. So how do we do this? Let's keep it real simple with our decisions, our actions, and our results. And with the sum, aren't we, sitting here today, of all the decisions, actions, results we've taken so far in life. And I know some of it was luck, good or bad, and I know other people did stuff that we did love or that we didn't love, but how we reacted to that has brought us here today. With the addition of all the decisions, action, results so far. And what I'm interested in is what's the next chapter that you want to go and build, that maybe you think you have no business showing up to do. How can we turn that on its head? Find the courage to go and write a blockbuster of a next chapter in our story. Decision, action, result. You did it this afternoon. You decided after the conference today what clothes to put on to your bodies. Action. You put on the clothes that we can see in the room here. Result, watching you very closely as you had your cocktails and your mocktails before we sat down. Result, I would say for 95% of the room, good decision this evening. 5%, I don't know what you were doing, but there's a cameraman here, there he is, hi sir, and he's going to catch you, it's down in the record now, there's a video going on, that's part of the story now. Decision, action, result. The question is, will we take our decisions, heart and soul, to write our best story, to love, to study, to show up as we want to show up, to leave the impact and legacy we want to build? Or will we let the little voice in our head, the tiger, that says people like you have no business showing up to do stuff like that, that makes the heartbeat quicken when we think about moving forward to do it, makes the little voices of self-doubt speak to us, this visceral force that drives us back? I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it the tiger. We don't want to kill it. It's a really important evolutionary protection mechanism. So it's called taming tigers. We want to understand it. When necessary, calm the growl down and do it. So we'll look at the playbook. We've looked at the beginning part of that. If I can have the slide. Thanks so much. These guys are good. Anybody seen a movie? Quick show of hands. Who's seen a movie? Oh, look at that. There, you're with me. Sometimes to that question, about 3 hands go up and then you know you got your work cut out for the evening. So they're all kind of the same, aren't they? And to illustrate that point, I've brought Dorothy into the room. You see, because here we've got this teenage girl called Dorothy. Now, Dorothy, for those of you who haven't seen this movie, hello, lives in a place called Kansas. And she doesn't like it in Kansas. And how do we know that she doesn't like it in Kansas? Because she hitches a ride to the bright lights of Chicago and gets going? No, because she sings us a little song about how she doesn't like it in Kansas and then goes back to have dinner with Auntie Em. She does absolutely nothing. But then a wind comes, picks her house up, drops it in Oz. Now she's got to make new friends. She's got to learn new skills. She's way out of her depth. People like her have no business being in a place like this. We are not in Kansas anymore. She's got to overcome obstacles. A witch who is green and has a fleet of flying monkeys, and you thought you had issues at the office. This woman has gone, she's on the yellow brick road. And we can go to any movie you like, and we're going to find the same thing. He doesn't want to go and rescue a princess stuck on a Death Star. That's what the invitation is at the beginning, but he goes to do his chores. Until his guardians are killed. The big event happens. Now he leaves his planet of Tatooine where they farm. He's a farmer on Tatooine. What are you going to farm on Tatooine? You've seen the film? Anyway. And at this moment, his face changed, John Williams' score changed, and he's off with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's leaving, he's off out the comfort zone. We can fast forward, is it 30, 40 years, and we get exactly the same story this time. Exactly the same story, this time with Rey. The movies introduce us to the character in their ordinary world. Their ordinary world, not ours, but theirs. And they don't want to change. And then a big thing happens, and they have to change. But that's the thing. The big thing happens. Big things don't happen to us. I mean, they might. But we can't rely on that to thrive in a changing world. Maybe the big thing will happen and my movie will start. We have to make it happen. We hold the pen. How we loved, how we showed up, how heart and soul we threw ourselves forward. So it's easy to leave the comfort zone when it's more comfortable outside than it is in. If anyone in the room hasn't got a smartphone yet and got their head around the whole smartphone thing, eventually that comfort zone is so horrid here, it's not comfortable anymore, is it? Everybody's out there. So it's like I used to smoke. It's pretty tricky being a smoker now, isn't it? But the heroes, the people we admire, the people we need to be to thrive in a changing world, to write our story, to leave our legacy, they leave the comfort zone because it's time. Change always starts with an event, ladies and gents. In the movies, they wait and they get given it by the scriptwriter. We don't very often get that. And generally when we do, it's not a nice thing. We have to create our event. Change starts with an event. Are you going to wait for it, or are you going to create it? Because creating it, you've got to tame your tiger, you've got to be brave and courageous, you've got to leave the comfort zone. And that's what we're examining now for the rest of this playbook. Rule number 1. There are 10. We're not going to look at 10. Don't worry, it's way too late in the day. I'm going to give you a few highlights. Rule number 1 is to act boldly today, not tomorrow. Because we always want to wait till we know how it's going to work, till we can do it better, till we won't look stupid, so we won't fail, when the boss won't laugh at us, when the customer won't say no. We all want to wait. I had a real privilege yesterday of watching a presentation at another event I was addressing from a bigwig at Amazon, talking about their ferocious appetite for acting today and how they safeguard people from the errors that might bring. Whereas in other organizations, if you act today before you've set up the PowerPoint slide pretending to predict the future and how it's all going to be okay, you can fill in the rest. We'll come back to Amazon in just a moment. Right, I want to bring this alive with horse racing, then we're going to move on, because this is the biggest point, because everyone could do amazing things if we acted today. Well, and the universe moves to support us when we jump off the cliff, but we don't want to jump, because we weren't sent off to school saying, take risks today, unless we were brought up in San Francisco. Isn't it weird that they're leading innovation? So, I finished my Googling. I rang up my friend Steve. Now, the reason I rang my friend Steve is that he's the only bloke I know with any interest in horse racing. He goes there a lot. So I rang him and I said, I've got to be a jockey in a year. What's it like? He said, you won't like it. I said, why? He said, imagine you're standing on the seat, well, squatting on the seat of your motorbike. I said, all right. He said, you hold on to the handlebars in the middle, which isn't very secure. He said, they've taken away the brakes. Think that one through. And then someone else, not you, is going to wind the throttle up to 35 miles an hour, and you're going to go. So I thought, right, I came off the phone call. I said, I better go on a diet. I better book a horse riding lesson. I thought, if I have a lesson once a week after work, I'll be a jockey in a year, right? That's going to work. That was my plan. And I'll go on a diet. I'm not going to have any more biscuits. That'll get me my weight down. So I'm in the pub on the following Friday, and I'm having a pie and a pint, because we all know calories cannot touch the human body on a Friday. And I'm tucking in. And it's not Friday. Be careful today. Be careful. And I'm tucking in. My friend said to me, what have you done then that's bold, jockey man? I said, I have been for a horse riding lesson. And I'm on a diet, apart from Friday. They said, this isn't bold, because most of Europe's going to go on a diet this year, and let's face it, most 7-year-old kids have had a little go on a pony. This is not going to get you to the racetrack. What you need to do, my friend, is ring up racehorse trainers, the people on the television, the people in the newspapers, the people who make jockeys. I don't want to ring up the people on the television. So I do. I ring them because I have to. I've got to do my bold thing, and the guys have made me say I will. So I ring them. They all say, you can't be a jockey. I said, why? You're too old. Or, you're overweight. Ouch. And let's face it, you can't ride a horse. So, now I was quite excited by that, and I'll come back to why, because I'm not getting any data points that aren't variable on that. I'm not getting any reason why I can't be a jockey. But I'll return to that because this is really important. So I'm back in the pub, but I'm having a water, and my friend said, right, ring 3 of the most senior people you can reach in British racing. That is the boldest thing we can think of. I did. Within 48 hours, everybody helped me. Within 48 hours, I was having dinner with water and a salad with England's most successful female, that's going to be important, jump jockey that we've ever produced from this country, from England. I don't know where you're from. And at the end of the dinner, she put her hand out. She said, okay, we'll do it. I like you. We're going to do it. We're going to start on Saturday. Meet me here. We'll go in convoy to a yard. I'll put you on a horse. We'll do an assessment. We'll make a plan. In a year, you are going to be a jockey on the television. Yes? We're not even going to have a meeting or a plan. We're just going to shake hands and do it. If you were going to make a movie, would show me sitting on my sofa having a beer and a pizza and gabbing on about how I'm going to be a jockey but doing nothing, and then we'd get, in the first 5 minutes, then we get to that handshake, and now we've got a story, right? Now I'm in Oz. If I touch her hand, I'm in Oz. I'm never going to let her down. I'm going to be a jockey in a year. It's that simple. Whose hand do you need to shake? Not once you've spent 3 years becoming perfect and thinking the plan through and showing the PowerPoint slides. Whose hand are you going to shake tomorrow to start moving towards the thing that you think you've got no business showing up to do? And if I've done my job right, and if you stayed with me, I mean, if you're wearing a little Apple Watch or any other kind of Fitbit, your heartbeat's just changed because the tiger's just woken up. And it's going to wake up heavily during the night and tomorrow morning if you're truly going to think about doing this tomorrow. Who's writing our story? Us or the tiger? So, you're overweight, you can't ride horses, and you're too old. Do you know where it's written down that a 36-year-old person cannot ride a horse quickly because I don't? I'm overweight. Absolutely right I am, but I know that barring a medical condition, which I don't have, that's variable. I can deal with that. So that's fine. Thirdly, I can't ride a horse. Well, that is a problem. But then, bear in mind, 150 years ago, all of us would have been showing up to work on our horses. In fact, horses in your industry would have been a big deal. And just the fact that it's gone out of fashion now doesn't mean that the human body can't do it anymore. So that's got to be doable, right? They're not giving me any fixed data. We have a gravitational pull towards yesterday. Gravitational pull. You can hear, now that I've said it, you'll hear people arguing hard for yesterday whilst talking about change. And they don't even realize they're doing it. And that gravitational pull is a set of rules, a set of ideas in our head. I was terrible at sport at school. If I got picked to be on your team for five-a-side football, I promise you, 4 of your shoulders would have gone, oh. Terrible. I've got a rule in my head. A gravitational pull towards, I don't do sport, I'm the bad at sport guy. That was my name. Didn't do sport at college, didn't do sport since. Until this point. I've got a rule, and this rule keeps me safe. And if I break it, the tiger comes alive. People like me can't do stuff like that. It's just a set of rules pulling me back to the safety of yesterday when my heart rate's nice and slow. I'm not challenged and I'm not exposed and I don't have to pick up my pen and write my story. Who else could possibly be writing the story of your life other than you? It's not the boss you can leave today. It's not your mother and father. We love to blame them for many years for how it all turned out, but we have to wake up one day and say, okay, you know, I'm 98 years old. I have to take responsibility at some stage for this story. There's got to be a sell-by, a use-by date for blaming our parents for how it all turned out. We hold the pen. And how do we write our story? Decision, action, result, every moment of every day.
decision, action, result of every moment of every day that we are awake. And we are the culmination, the addition of all the decision, actions, and results we've taken so far in life. From the fact that you live here in Geneva to what you're wearing this morning. You decided to put these clothes on. Action, you put these clothes on. Result, watching you come in. Really, 95% of the room, great work, great work. But it's part of your story now, however it goes. So what I'd like to do is share 7 ideas on how we can deal with, tame this thing that I'm calling the tiger in order to go write the story that we want to write, to dive to 101 meters if that's what we want to do. First idea, act boldly today, which means actually leaving the sofa. Now, all human beings, we all share many traits, but here's one that's important in this context. We wait before we do something that's new, a little bit uncertain. We haven't done it before. We don't know how it is going to go, ringing that person, whatever it may be. We'll wait before we do that new, slightly scary thing until our current situation is more scary than the new thing, right? And then we go. So we get given a deadline we've got to hit. We get some pressure from another person, perhaps somebody in authority relative to us. We get some advice from the doctor that we really need to address something in our lifestyle quite urgently. Suddenly the current situation is more scary. We move. Top performers in whatever field share the trait of being aware of this and moving past it. What is it you need to do? We need to leave the sofa. That's going to be the first thing. And that means leaving behind how we got here in the first place. We've got to find a new way, start doing some new things. So we share that trait. And change, when we want to make change, happens quickly. And we love the idea, and we've been sold the idea that change is incredibly complex and takes us a very long time. Let's have another reality check. Everybody sitting here today or watching in weeks and years to come knows that they have made changes in their lives in a heartbeat. What takes us time is deciding what that change will be out of all the options we have in all the universe, and then committing to make it happen. And as soon as we make that commitment, our behaviors shift. The future becomes a degree certain. There's still a lot of uncertainty getting there, but we decide the path and we go. How can we accelerate that? This will help us to do that. So when we're sitting on that sofa, first thing we can do then, if we want to free dive to 101 meters, is to act boldly, to leave the sofa. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that because we know that people like us can't do these things. We know that we're too old or we're too young or we don't have the talent, or that cool people like that won't speak to somebody like me to give me the advice I would need. We have a rule book in our heads about who we are, about what we can do in the world, and what the world has done for us, how the whole thing works. And it's unique and different for each one of us, which is kind of odd if it's a rule book, huh? We've created this with some help over the years, but we've created this and we hold on to it. And it's very useful. It's very useful because it gives us a great reason why people like us can't do the things that we want to do. We have to do the things that other people want us to do, which is kind of handy because we don't have to go to the new, uncertain place. We can stay where we are. Now, unwittingly, my daughter gave me some very important advice on this. She was singing one day and I was listening. And she'd been influenced in turn by a very famous princess. And she used this line. She said, "I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on." The cold never bothered me anyway. Now, I should add, I have 2 daughters, one of 19 and one of 2. This one is the 2-year-old. I've never quoted a Disney princess before, but when it comes to these rules, perhaps we have to let it go. Let it go. Yeah, okay. I guess I asked for it. These are fictions. Largely they're fictions. Some of them may be real, but we won't know until we test them. We won't know until we test them. And some things might go wrong as we do that testing, of course. And that we can manage, that we can contain, that we can seek support on. But we don't know unless we test them. While I sit on my sofa and believe that I can't free dive to 101 meters, I'm dealing with fictions. reality check. Now, if I start to move into the realities, test, seek good advice, get quality mentoring, now I might be able to see that my possibilities for my story are radically different than I thought. Now, if you're going to take a risk, any kind of risk, off the sofa, do the new thing, you're going to hear voices in your head. A question to you, a show of hands. How many people hear voices speaking to them in their heads? Okay, very honest, about 5% of the room. Now, for the rest of you whose hand didn't go up, the voice I'm worried about is the voice that you just spoke with and you said, no, I'm okay, I don't hear voices in my head. Well, maybe I do, maybe I do. No, he might point at me, I'll put my hand right. That's the voice. If we're going to do new stuff, we're going to hit this voice. It's the voice of the tiger and we don't like it. But we can deal with it. So, for example, if you're sitting in the changing rooms and you've got to leave the changing room in Sharm el-Sheikh and you've got to go out into the ocean and swim out to a platform and free dive to 101 meters and it's record day and the governing judge, the governors, the judges from the world governing body, AIDA, are waiting out there for you, and there are cameras there and there are members of the public coming to watch, and in my case, you failed yesterday. I had 2 consecutive days where me and others had the facilities and we could go and try our records, and I'd coming off a failure, and I'm sitting in the changing room, and the voice in my head is saying, you shouldn't be here. Why don't you get changed and go home? You don't have to be here. And I don't. At moments like this, I don't think it's good enough to look in the mirror and say, it'll be great, I believe, I can. That's not the way you approach a real reality check challenge. It's not the way you approach a free dive to 101 meters. You have to know you've earned the right to be able to speak back out loud if you need to, but keep it in a private place. Speak back to the voice. Literally, coach yourself round. I've done my work. When I first went to 15 meters, it felt like I was being sucked into the depths of hell using this sled that I used. It was a no limits discipline free dive. By the time I was getting to 25, it was feeling good. I've done my yoga, I've done my breath hold, I've extended that out now from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. I've changed my diet, I've worked hard with my coaches. I've worked on the technical side of how you equalize through this dive, because you're going to equalize very consistently and all the way through, and that's going to become extremely important to your success. I've done all of that work, but the voice is still going in my head that I shouldn't be there. I have to be able to argue back. Secondly, when you're performing, the voice can come into your head. And I want to just really, perhaps it's slightly off topic for this, but I just want to share it to you. When it came to the free dive, I was really getting voices loud in my head whilst I was diving. Can you do this? Should you be here? I go, well, this is not the time for this. Right? I was meeting the tiger at 80 meters under the ocean, which is a bad place to meet the tiger. So your heartbeat increases and you don't want this. There's nothing to breathe down there. There's no scuba diver waiting to give you a go on his or her scuba tank at 100 meters. That's too dangerous for scuba divers. So I thought I'd experiment. So I tried, you ever heard of an earworm? It's a tune that gets into your head, a bit like that Disney tune, and you can't get rid of it. Well, I decided to work to create an earworm, and I managed to do it with a tune called Ad Gure Name by a group of singers and instrumentalists called Dev Premal. I worked at this every free dive, every relaxation, every yoga, every time I was on an aircraft, I was listening to this repeatedly. It began to drive me mad, but when I dived, it was in Dolby surround sound. I had a little core left in the middle, which was for thinking about the technical side of what I was doing, and the rest of me was just bathed in this noise, in the most silent place on the planet. What do you need to do to help you get over the hump? What innovation, what creativity, what advice, what can you pull on that'll help you get off your sofa and go do the things you need to do? So we're going to have to do the work, and that's why I've put this one in here. It's critical. This is not about looking in the mirror saying, it'll be cool, and trying straight away. It is about getting involved and trying, but with guidance, with help. And before we go and do the big thing, the big presentation to the board of our great innovation, or the free dive, or whatever it is you're thinking about out there, we're going to have to do the work. I can't stress this enough. Now, A lot of people say that the tiger must really attack you at 101 meters under the ocean, down there with nothing to breathe in. As I said, you can't afford that attack at 101 meters. The tiger will attack you if you decide you're going to be crazy enough to go around saying you're going to try and set a new British freediving record and be the first of the Brits to get to 100 meters, which isn't a great depth in world terms, by the way. The tiger doesn't roar, really, once you've controlled it on that dive. The tiger is always going to roar when you look at your calendar, because you're too busy, and I'm too busy. But change, let's keep it simple. Change, reality check, change is going to happen in the calendar. You want to get healthier, change what's in the calendar. You want to have a different impact on your colleagues at work, change what's in the calendar. You want to learn new skills and be incredibly competent in an area that's really important to you, of whatever that is in your life. Change what's in the calendar. We're going to have to always go to the calendar to find change, but you've got no room in the calendar. So we're back to the Disney song. We've got to let some stuff go, but we don't like letting anything go that's in our calendar because it got us here. It's paying the bills. It's keeping the boss happy, the husband, the wife, the children, the whole thing is happy. It's all good because of what's in the calendar. And we get back to that cliche, what got us here won't get us there. But it's not really a cliche. Think about this. Well, it might be, but it's valuable. Think about it really. It doesn't mean we do new stuff. What got us here won't get us there. We let go of old stuff. That's scary. That old stuff's keeping us safe. What needs to change in the calendar in order to make stuff happen? We're going to have to find the mentor. You know, if you're going to leave Tatooine and you're going to go and start messing around on the Death Star, you need Obi-Wan with you to help you understand what you're doing here. You're going to have to. Whenever we do this stuff, we enter a new world, whether it's a new chapter of our careers or a new environment at work or a new sporting environment or parenthood. We're going to have to find someone to guide us there. So the tiger, of course, tells us they're not going to help you. Why would they help you? Why would someone as great as that help you? And maybe the first person won't, but I promise you, the 21st person eventually will. Just don't tell them they were the 21st call. Just don't go there. Find the mentor. We don't want to do this because it's vulnerability. We admit we need help. We don't like doing this stuff. We're going to have to find the mentor if we're going to make it happen. And then we're going to have to commit to complete. I want to illustrate this using the freedive as a kind of metaphor, really. And to do that, to help us imagine it, I'm going to run this movie with the sound down. Now, there's a moment when you're on the surface here and you're about to start a freedive when you have to take a decision. And that decision is, I am now going to 101 meters in my case. Unless there's an emergency. If there's an emergency, this is not a macho sport. There's always tomorrow. If we have a problem, we're coming home. But if there's no emergency, I have to know at that top moment before I start this part of the dive that I'm going to 101 meters non-stop. I cannot be there thinking to myself, I'm going to go to 80 meters, I'm going to have a little think, see how it is down there, and if it's all okay, I'll carry on, but if I don't like it, I'm going to stop. Because at 80 meters, you're under pressure. You're going through change. You're under 9 times the Earth's atmospheric pressure at 80 meters. This means that your lungs have been compressed to around about the size of your fist. Previously, they occupied your rib cage. This means that the diaphragm, the muscle that separates our stomach area from our chest area, gets pulled up by the vacuum into your chest cavity. And that means that you look fantastic. At 80 meters, right? If only there was somebody there to see you, but there's nobody down there. You're on your own, right? You can't be taking decisions at that stage. Unless there's a problem, of course, then you're coming home. Do I want to do this? Is a very valid decision. But it's not one you're going to take very successfully at 80 meters under the ocean. You're going through too much change. Ladies and gents, I was speaking about something called commit to complete. Because we have to decide at the start we're going to see this through to the end. Why? Because there are going to be great days, incredible days. We're going to meet new people. Things will happen. Changes will come. We'll understand a new thing. There will also be bad days when we doubt ourselves and the confidence goes and we're not sure if we can get over this next hump and somebody's lost faith in us and we're feeling a bit lonely and small. We have to know that we're going through those points. We're going through that. We know it's coming and we're going through it just as it will come. on a free dive to 101 meters. We have to commit to complete. So I left my sofa and I went to 101 meters. So what for you? For me, I met incredible people. I learned about things that I didn't know I could do. I learned new things. I went to places that I didn't know somebody like me could go to. I went down to 101 meters. It was the most incredible, silent, peaceful place. While you're down there, the whole planet, all the oceans, all the mountains, squeeze you, hold you, give you the most incredible hug. As long as you've trained and you're in good shape to go there, it's fine. It doesn't bother you. It's pleasant. It's exciting. It's peaceful. It's loving. But importantly, when I came back to my sofa, I was different. I changed down there. We do. I don't know what the next chapter of your story would be. Of course I don't. But I do know it's important you leave your sofa and you write that chapter. Why? Because each of our stories is unique. Each adds something to the sum total of us all. If the tiger takes control and you stay on your sofa and you don't write your story, then we're all the poorer for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. I wish you a great story.